Welcome back. Disillusioned with farming here at home, a handful of hardy South Africans led by former prisoner of war Wynand du Toit has started a farming revolution in the wilds of Congo, Brazzaville. We paid them a visit.
I dedicated everything I had and everything I did, I dedicated to the military. So when I was captured, it all came crashing down and I realized it's the end.
What was your mission in Angola?
The true mission or
The true mission, Wynand. Not what was told to the public at that
No,
stage.
the true mission was that we went there to blow up the oil installation of Cabinda Gulf, the oil storage tanks. They provided Angola with 76% of their income. So we could have won the war did we succeed in blowing up those tanks.
Between 1966 and 1989, South Africa was engaged in what would become known as the Bush War between Angola and its Cuban allies. The doctrine at the time was to defend against the so-called communist onslaught and prevent liberation armies such as the ANC from attacking South Africa from bases across our borders. As a captain in South Africa's elite recce unit, Wynand du Toit often fought the war under a shroud of secrecy.
So where did it all go wrong?
We are getting to the dangerous part of the conversation. But it was said that there was security breaks and leaks and that they were actually waiting for us.
The clandestine mission started with the recce's boarding a naval strike craft at Saldanha Bay. In the middle of the ocean, they transferred to a submarine, which then offloaded them close to the Angolan coast.
We will use the first night as infiltration, then we will lay up for the day in a hide, and the next night execute the operation and then exfiltrate back to the pickup point where the rubber boats will then pick us up again.
Before the recce's could complete their mission, they were spotted by Angola's FAPLA forces. During the ensuing firefight, Wynand lost two close comrades, Corporal Roland Liebenberg and Sergeant Louis van Breda.
They died basically right there, in your arms? You were trying to save them?
The first shot, Louis was killed, and then there was a burst of machine gun fire, RPD machine gun fire, which hit Roland Liebenberg across his chest, and which hit me in the shoulder and then here in my back.
Shot and captured behind enemy lines, the Angolans paraded their trophy to the international press.
We land the boats in the Bay of Malembu.
There was also the thought that at that time maybe you'd rather be dead than being captured in Angola.
Well, it was a big shock. Firstly, then disappointment, and then a bit of shame.
Shame because he'd been captured and forced to reveal details of his mission. But Wynand says they never got much out of him.
Better chances was.
You didn't reveal any huge military secrets there.
No, I didn't. I mean, up to today, the Angolans have never found out that we have actually traveled there in a submarine. I always got the idea that they never realized what they really had in their hands.
Although he faced torture and endless interrogation, Wynand says the worst part of prison life was the isolation.
You can't accept what is happening with you. You have no news, no information, nothing. So the most difficult thing is to settle down and accept your fate. And accept the fact that you are going to be here for a long time.
27 years on, with much water under the bridge, Wynand finds himself facing an altogether different challenge.
The first thing people always thought when they met me is they think of me as a soldier. But yes, I grew up on a wheat farm in the Cape, in the Western Cape. That was always my first love, was farming.
We've all got family or friends who've emigrated. It's a daunting prospect. So imagine packing up all your earthly goods, loading up trucks and trekking more than 5,000 k's up Africa to a country that you've never ever seen.
Last year, Wynand led a group of intrepid South African farmers to Congo-Brazzaville in Central Africa. They'd been invited by the Congolese government to help develop the country's commercial farming sector.
The initial idea was to just to travel, sort of enjoying it, stop over next to the sea at night and catch a couple of fishes. My fishing rods are still tied together as it was the day I left Pretoria.
And there's nothing fishy about that story. It was a hard slog all the way. 16 farmers and several trucks and bakkies loaded with all their belongings travelled in convoy for more than 6 weeks to reach the Congo.
The execution of the convoy was very important for me, that it is structured and controlled. And of course, the military background did help.
But all the military know-how in the world couldn't have prepared them for what lay ahead.
We got stuck. We had to offload the tractors, some of it, to pull the trucks from the sand.
Shoddy roads weren't the only obstacles. The travellers had to deal with endless delays. Endless haggling at border posts. Language barriers. And mechanical breakdowns.
And interestingly, the group that went on the convoy was not particularly selected. It was people that wanted to go. And as we continue along the way, people just sort of come forward in a speciality. Like Japie came and he became the main mechanic, and he repaired everything along the way and improvised tremendously.
Husband and wife team Japie and Leah Piens accompanied Wynand on the 6-week challenge into Central Africa.
Now, Japie, on the trek, you were Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah, we tried. I am in the mechanical division of this operation here.
Did you have a few headaches along the way?
Yeah.
Big ones?
Yeah, big.
Like broken suspensions, seized engines, leaving 1 or 2 minor accidents along the way. Japie and his comrades gave new meaning to the old adage, a boer maak 'n plan.
Leah, how did you feel being the only woman surrounded by all these men?
It was quite an experience, but it was nice. Just being with my husband and making some food for the people. And I wasn't list for the people anymore. I said, just make your own food. Now I'm going into my caravan. And
So if they misbehaved, they didn't get food?
otherwise they didn't get food.
And how they behaved themselves?
Very good.
Did
Very
they?
good. No problem, no way.
And maybe that's because Leah also doubled as the travelling hairdresser.
Now, you
And
drove
then-
this called Terios.
Yes. Me, myself, my dog with the 5 babies.
In the little red Terios.
Yeah.
And how did it go?
So very well, but like I said, some places the mud was like that. All of a sudden, I start praying and I said, ooh, when I start crying, God just went straight again.
After 6 weeks on the road, the trek finally ended in the middle of the jungle.
The Congolese government may have given the farmers some 80,000 hectares of land, but there's been no financial assistance, and in fact they do pay a small rental for the property. For some of them it's been an uphill battle requiring massive doses of faith.
Although there was a hero's welcome from the government and local people, there was not much else.
So we had no water when we came here, no electricity.
The farmers were allowed to temporarily occupy houses abandoned by French settlers in the 1960s. The houses are situated in the small village of Malolo, close to the South Africans' new farmland.
We worked about day and night to clean the place to get in.
Once their homes were habitable and electricity and water supplies had been set up, the farmers went about the tedious task of clearing the dense Congolese bush to create fields for their maize crops.
When we arrived here the first time, we just take the tractors and the disc and went into the bush, and we damaged the tractors tremendously.
The tractors, more suited to farming in the Free State than bush clearing in the Congo, had a rough time. But in typical Wynand fashion, a locally sourced bulldozer soon solved the problem. Finally, the first maize seeds touched Congolese soil.
It's amazing how they're coping with the challenges of a life close to the equator but so far from home and Eskom. Part 2 after the break. And now we go back to the modern-day trek to Congo, Brazzaville, where we will see some very rustic inventions, venture into a market that might shock you, and flash back to the event that made headlines around the world, the release of Captain Wynand du Toit.
This is Hannes Forshier's homemade borehole drill.
And do you think the water will be good?
Yeah,
Pure?
pure water.
No acid mine drainage here, eh?
No.
The invention seemed to work so well, we wondered what exactly he was drilling for.
Are you sure you're going for water, not oil?
I hope it's oil instead of water, but I try for water. Yeah.
It's astounding to see the sacrifices these farmers have made. No wonder Hannes is keen to move on to his allocated farm and begin building his own house. Like Hannes, Wynand is completing his home on a farm he's named Daar, beautiful land. Between construction activity and spending hours preparing his fields, Wynand often returns home looking like he's off to battle.
Wynand, you're going back to war with camouflage paint. Eh? What's happening here?
It's dust. Look at my arms, it's dust.
All just dust, eh?
Yeah, dust, the wood from in the fields.
Bloody good camouflage though, eh?
Camouflage had been Wynand's stock in trade before he achieved fame as the first South African officer captured during the Angolan Bush War. After 2.5 years in jail, news of his release came like a bolt out of the blue.
Now it's just amazing that you heard about your possible release watching TV. How did that happen?
They gave me a television set, but it was just outside the prison door. And that night on the news, I saw it, and they said, but tomorrow I'm going to be released, and that I will fly to Maputo, and that I will be exchanged in Maputo. 12 o'clock that day, I heard the footsteps in the hallway, and they opened the cell door, and the base commander of the Cuban force came into the cell, and he said, Captain, you are going home.
Last night's dramatic prisoner swap amid intense security.
That was overwhelming, of course.
837 days into his capture, Wynand was released in Maputo, Mozambique on the 7th of September 1987. His release was part of a complicated prisoner exchange involving 6 countries, which saw the release of 2 ANC activists and more than 133 Angolan soldiers.
I thought that my release will be something like a shove across the border, you know. There you go. Yeah, maybe one photographer for record purposes. I never thought it will be this big.
Because when you think of the contrast, I mean, you'd been in this cell for well over 2 years.
Suddenly on one day you had more input than you had in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's why it became overwhelming.
Now, see on the jet, it was a jet, was it?
Yeah, it was the president's plane. Yeah.
Now, the biltongs there, but no brandy and coke, eh?
No, they were too worried that my system won't take some liquor, so I wasn't allowed to drink anything, not even a glass of champagne.
And I'm sure Pick had a clippies or 2, eh?
Like normal, yeah.
The reunion of the du Toit family has brought to a climax the intricate multinational prisoner exchange in Maputo involving 6 countries and the release of at least 135 people. Just before 1 o'clock this morning, the car carrying the du Toit family drew up at the Cape Town residence of the state president and Mrs. Elise Botha Westbrook.
Een jong Zuid-Afrikaanse held terug te verwelkomen in zijn land.
And then PW looking at all these journalists sitting there. Is there any questions? And all the hands went up. And he just looked at it and said, oh, no questions. Thank you, good night, bye-bye. And there out we went. And we went into his office and he asked me, what do you want to drink? I say, a brandy. And I thought they were going to stop me. No. Groot krokodille. He throws me a big one. And there the two of us sat and we drank a brandy. Well, those days are not going to do anything about my welfare now. What I'm planting this next month on these fields and what I harvest in January, February, that will determine my future.
Wynand's future is grounded in the new family he's started with his second wife, Frances. Her roots firmly in Pretoria. Frances had been uncertain about life in the Congo.
She's not really a farm girl.
She's a city girl.
She's a city girl.
I didn't know what to expect. And it was completely overwhelming. Everything is different. It's a third world country. It's wild, it's rough, the roads are bad.
3 months later, she was more of a farm girl than I was a farm boy.
The remains of houses, even mansions here in Malolo, remind you that 50 or 60 years ago, this was a lucrative farming community. Now, whether Wynand and his colleagues can bring back the glory days remains to be seen.
We got the ability to do something big here.
And to Wynand, that means embracing Congolese culture.
Now, if this is our future, then we will have to become Congolese. We will have to be part of the people, and we will have to adapt to their mannerisms, their ways of how they do. We have to integrate.
We wanted to witness some of this integration for ourselves. So we joined Yapi and Leah on a supply run to Dolisi, their nearest town.
This is Dolisi. It's about an hour and a half's dusty drive from the farms. And at the local market, you can get just about anything. And a few things that you don't see too often in South Africa.
The market offers a smorgasbord of fresh produce and the farmers stock up on supplies here.
500 for all.
But they steer clear of the meat section, which you can smell before you see it.
This is the bushmeat department. A lot of it's been smoked. It's not a pleasant sight, I can tell you, and not recommended for sensitive viewers.
On offer, a variety of primates, snakes, and even armadillo.
Now, this may look like a mobile bottle store. It's actually two-stroke oil and petrol for the little motorbikes and scooters that buzz around Dolisi. It's got quite a sort of vibe, this place, and I must say one thing, you do feel safe.
I will never go back to South Africa.
Why do you prefer the Congo to South Africa, where you grew up?
Because of the crime. We sleep with our doors open, we sleep with our windows open. You don't lock your home when you go to town. The doors is always standing open.
So you are feeling that freedom?
Very, very much.
I've been away for a week to Point Noir. I come back, everything is in place, everything is there.
So the Congo seems safe, but are all the inhabitants as friendly as the locals?
Yeah, the snakes is a problem, yeah. That's when I broke the Congolese record in high jump, far jump, and 100 meters in one.
It's really early days for Congo agriculture. 300 tons of maize lying here. And that's just the first crop from the first fields. A small fraction of what they hope is yet to come.
The fact that there is a crop, the fact that it has been done is the miracle. And that's how the government here is looking at it. It has happened.
According to President Dennis Sassou Nguesso, the Congolese government is counting on the South Africans to kickstart their flagging agricultural sector.
Ils sont en train d'ouvrir plusieurs centaines d'hectares pour le développement agricole. Je vois ça comme un exemple extraordinaire de volonté. Et je pense qu'ils vont réussir.
It's clear that there's no turning back for these farmers. They already have plans to diversify into livestock, a variety of fruits, soya, and maybe even rice.
It's such beautiful land. Once you've seen it, you actually say, but I can do something with that land. I think that is the main attraction. Learn from the past and remember it, because it's not a shame where you're coming from. The challenge is where you're going.
And maybe a venture that benefits those pioneering farmers and their adopted country. Before we close shop, a report back on a story we broadcast at the end of July last year. It was on permits issued under false pretenses to Thai escorts to hunt rhinos. And this week, self-confessed rhino horn smuggler Chumlong Lemtong Thai was sentenced.